are more West Coast focused because this is the Pacific Regional Conference, and we are the best region in the nation. That said, here's Vans, and I love this particular case study. So you're scrolling down, they've got the checkerboard on their building, beautiful images combined with text. You get a great sense of like, wow, this is an amazing workspace that this firm designed. You're going down, you're reading more, you're looking at more, you're reading press that they did, and then finally at the bottom, hopefully you've had a good experience and you want to read more, and they offer up, again, they're curating an experience. They're not making you do a ton of work. You're allowed to actually see these new projects that are hopefully similar in terms of market for them to find. Murray Smith, this is a site that we designed where you learn about one of their services, and as you scroll through, these are the hero projects. Let's say you click on this storm drainage program, and at the end of the project description, you get down to the bottom, and again, we're not making you go back to the landing page. We've offered up these additional projects right there at the bottom, and you can click on those and go further. So this is how many firms are including related projects. Not as many as I would have thought. I think this is kind of a basic thing, but as an industry, we can do better. Have you guys done better? Anybody? Related projects? So let's switch gears here and talk about the services section of your site. And a particular client wants to know, does your firm offer the services I need? So one great thing within the, I said before, have links to services within projects. Or have a whole services section. This is how HDR does it. This is a quick little video. If you click on architecture, you go to the architecture service. You read all about their particular aspects. There are sub-services within architecture. You click on that, you learn more about, they put branding within that space. You learn about who the key team leaders are within that. You get to learn about thought leadership within that particular service. And then finally at the bottom within that service, you get to learn about particular projects. I think that's a really effective page. So what happens typically is firms will describe a service that they're performing, and rather than sort of describing their unique point of view or their particular spin on that service, and we don't need to describe what architecture is, right? Your clients already know what architecture is. What you need to do in this section is describe your firm's particular differentiation and how you approach that particular service. And one way to do that is demonstrate thought leadership by sharing articles, and then finally at the bottom, sharing projects. So here's how many of the firms have project links within their services sections. We'll skip that. Here's how Arcadis does it. If you learn about their engineering, and then you go to a subset of engineering, and you click on, say, civil, they'll have projects. What I really like is this idea of having ambassadors. I think this is really key. If somebody is interested in a particular service that you offer, having a call to action and being able to get, if you have questions or you want to start to form a relationship, I firmly believe that relationships can and do begin online. And you can, I mean, just look at the online dating industry. It's a perfect example. But yeah, I love this call to action button. Ask me a question. We're not trying to hide our people. And this is a question that I often get from clients, or a big fear and concern is like, I don't want to put our people on there because they're going to get poached in this economy of where there's this war on talent. Has anybody heard that from a principal? Yeah, and I get it. You don't want your people to get poached. But here's the thing. Your competitors already know who your top people are, right? They're on LinkedIn, they're visible, they're speaking at conferences, they're writing. And if it's so easy to poach your people just because you've gone to a website to figure out who they are, there are significantly bigger problems happening at your firm. So you need to make sure that your people are engaged and be proud of putting them on the site. So I think this is great. I love this approach too. We haven't included Rob's entire bio, but we've simply included this simple button, and we can go and learn more about him through LinkedIn. I think that's a nice, elegant solution, and it's certainly an economy of space, which I appreciate. You get to the bottom of this section, and there's this nice toggle. So you're learning about their civil engineering capabilities, and you can see projects. Again, there's this bold, we're just going to show you our 3 hero projects. But then you can also click on related articles and get a sense of how they think. and how they approach that particular area with blog posts or thought leadership attempts. So within services, this is how many people are, just 7 and 6 are showing off their people. I think there's a big opportunity there. So here's an area where we're really kind of dropping the ball, and I'm curious. I have a theory, but I'm going to sort of ask you guys about that. And the potential client is asking, has your firm worked for other clients like me? And there's a lot of ways they can look at this. Certainly they can go through the projects and try to determine what the client was, but in a lot of cases the way we organize our projects is by project name. We don't necessarily know who the client is. You have to dig another couple levels of deep, clicking to figure out who that person is. One of the things that we did, this was a site we designed for Berg Electric, and we have their hero projects, but then we've also listed more projects down below so that the client can quickly determine where those projects are and who the client was. SWA has taken the most straightforward approach. It's not the most beautiful page to look at, but in this case you don't care about that, right? So if you balance it, and by the way, these guys have amazing looking projects that they do show off, but this particular page, you just want to give somebody the ability to quickly scan and validate, like, oh wow, they've worked for firms that are similar. I'm speaking in the client's voice here, or potential clients. And so I feel confident that they've done 4 columns worth of work, and they've done work for people that I know, right? So my theory is that client or firms like you all are resistant to put clients on there because maybe there's this fear that your competition might know that and then try to poach them. Is that kind of the general fear? Anybody can answer this. Yeah. Yeah, but I guess I would push back on that a little, saying that, usually the project's done, and yeah, you might have an ongoing relationship with them. And usually when we're doing projects for clients, it's not a secret, right? We've got job site signs on the job site. We're not sort of hiding. In most cases, we want to show that off. So I think there's an opportunity cost. If you're trying to hide who your clients are, I think you're losing out on the opportunity for sharing that with a potential client. And it doesn't have to be big lists. In this case for Berg Electric, there was a slider, and we've got these prominent brands that they've done work for, and you can click on those and find specific projects that the firm has done work for. Yeah, here. So yeah, in this case, 1 of the E&R firms had a client list, and only 4 of those had a progressive list. So what about you guys? Do you have client lists? Yeah, so you guys are doing a little bit better than the average.
I have a question. How do you, so like Sony is up there.
Yeah.
Did you ask permission?
I didn't,
we
but
had some pushback on putting clients because we couldn't put their logo or their name on the site. So we didn't do it because we figured we'd have to ask all these people, and we're like, that's going to be a continuous effort, and so we just, that page just dropped.
Right.
So
this firm is based in San Diego. Sony has a huge division in San Diego. They had a great relationship. They asked and got permission. Yeah, I think you probably should ask. I was going to sort of say, ask for forgiveness afterward, but in this case, since I am in the business of trademarks and intellectual property, I don't think you should infringe on trademarks. I think you should ask for permission. Sometimes if it's not their logo, they'll at least allow you to put their name. But yeah, in some cases you have to respect the privacy if they want to keep that project secret.
yeah, those are the ones you want to put up there.
I know, right. I mean, there's a way to sort of like cloak, you can obscure their name and still include the project, but yeah, you want to be respectful of the client. Yes?
I had a quick question back to services. Do you have a strong opinion that you should have a services dedicated page, or could you blend it into the practice area pages like other examples?
Yeah.
SEO results?
It kind of depends on the breadth of your firm. So if you offer a ton of services, then yeah, I think you should probably have a dedicated main navigation button that says services and an individual, at least page, if not many pages, for each service. If you're a tighter, more focused firm and you just offer architecture, it probably doesn't make sense to have a whole section on services, because really all you do is architecture. You can talk about that service maybe more within markets or about the firm or those kinds of things. Yes?
Going back to your other question about listing clients, are you focused on the private market primarily, or the public and private market?
Well,
Our experience is primarily with the public market, and typically in the public market, things from
Yeah, the private ones are really tricky, and those are the ones you really want to show off.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
What I used to do for that was at the very beginning of a relationship with a client, we would mark if it's confidential, fill out its own website, press releases, photography, and then we add that to our database. So it goes to the clients using your database, quickly see if they know we can't use it on our website, but we can do press releases or vice versa.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think everything's negotiable. It can be in your contract to do the services that you're going to have the ability to publish. If it's a really key client that you would think is like, hey, we're taking this on, maybe we're not going to be as profitable, but this is such a marquee client that we want to be able to publicize it, then negotiate that from the very beginning as part of your agreement to be able to include that in your marketing materials. So of course firms want to understand, and it's challenging for firms to differentiate between our firms, and they want to know, are you different? And there's a couple of different ways that they will look at that. One is, on the home page, is there some sort of positioning statement that right up front says how your firm is different? So like for the Murray Smith website we did right away, we started off with their positioning statement, and it leads into their great company, which is sort of like about us. And it clarifies what their kind of 3 main unique features are, and you get to learn more about that. This is Methuen, and right up front positioning statement. This is sort of like a mini positioning, like their whole sort of mission and purpose, their why, is to design for positive change. So really quickly, if somebody lands on the home page first, they get a sense of what this particular firm stands for. Black & Beach says their positioning, building a world of difference, and you get to go deeper into that section. The Arcadis, I like this. They've got a whole section on what their brand means, and this is an area that we don't often, we spend a lot of time creating a brand and what it stands for and our messaging, and actually they explain, because they've got a pretty unique mark, in that they've got this, I have a special name for it, some sort of salamander. And they explain why, because I'm sure people might be curious, like, what the hell is that thing? And it's also an abstract A, and it's just a great mark. I love it. And but then they have a video about talking what the brand is. So an opportunity to again say, like, this is how we're different, and this is why we're special, right here in this particular page. So this is the amount of firms that have demonstrated their positioning right up front on the home page. So looking at your sites real quickly, if you go to your home page, do you have positioning on there? Do you have something that sort of really sort of screams like this is how we're unique and different? All right, there's a good opportunity there for you all. Another way you can do this is through process. Bureau Apple has this very unique process. They've even gone as far as trademark it, ingenuity, and they combine what they call specialties, sectors, and this ingenuity. You get these interesting overlaps of markets, services, and specialists. And this is how they put together teams for their projects. So they show this off right in the beginning of the particular thing. Stantec, I think they have taken, again, very multidisciplinary, lots of markets, lots of services. I admire their discipline in focusing down to say, hey, what we're really all about is 3 things. Community, creativity, and clients. And I feel like if a firm as big as Stantec can do that, then a firm smaller than that can certainly do that as well. And it requires, vigorous discipline. It probably involves hurting some division's feelings, but I think the greater good is served in that a potential client instantly knows how they are perhaps different than other firms. But mostly firms aren't doing all that well here in terms of sharing a process or sharing their unique positioning. So the other question that clients often have is about people. They want to know who's going to be potentially working on the project that they are considering moving forward, and can I review their bios? Now this is tough because obviously the project that you're going to be working on isn't already on your website, right? So you have to do more of a historical approach and show people that have worked on previous projects. This is Populous, who does a great job. This is the project description, where I showed you earlier they show off services and a description, but they've also identified the team of the people that worked on that project. So if you were Arsenal and you were building a new stadium, and you wanted to hire populists, there's a good chance that the team that worked on the Etihad Stadium for Manchester City would also be working on, and you get to know those people before they're actually working on your project. So let's say you get to know that particular project, you clicked on one of those people, and then now you can read more about that person. And I think this is a super useful page about a particular leader in that you've got a mini bio, you've got how to get a hold of them by phone, by email, what his qualifications are, the projects that he's worked on, and then you get an opportunity to read what this person believes, thinks, point of view, because they've identified thought leadership that Mike has written about particular topics. So if you wanted to get to know like this person that may be the project manager for your project, this is just an amazingly powerful and dense page to allow somebody to be able to do that. I get pushback on doing this a lot because people think, oh, everybody's going to email me, my phone number is going to be out there, I'm going to get all these unsolicited calls. No, you're not. It just doesn't happen. And wouldn't that be a nice problem to have? I mean, not the unsolicited part, but to actually hear from potential clients that, hey, they have a project that they're going to be considering. So the way we usually approach that is say, let's try it. And usually what happens is we put it up there, they don't get inundated with calls or emails, and they're like, okay, I got a couple that were worthwhile that turned into leads, and yes, it worked out. Arcadis does this. I think I showed you before. You know, you've got the ability to learn more about Mark. You can go to his LinkedIn profile. This is organized by market, so they do a lot of work in retail. He's the lead of this particular market, and you can ask him a question. You can see what he's tweeting about, or you can learn more about his LinkedIn profile. Yes.
So going on to their LinkedIn profile, getting marketing manage that or the individual.
Yeah, so I've heard it done lots of different ways. I think it works better when the marketing manager has a little bit of, I would say like make the marketing manager the editor, and maybe somebody starts to create their own profile, but the marketing manager edits it. It depends a little bit on the size of your firm and how much bandwidth you all as the marketing managers have. But I think it can be beneficial in terms of a brand consistency perspective to have a little bit of control.
So they don't want to give up.
They don't want to give up the control. I get it, right? This is my profile. You're not going to touch it. So, you know, I think you have to sort of have a conversation and say, this is why I think this would be beneficial. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's their profile, right? You can't force them to do it, but you can say, hey, we would prefer, and these are the reasons. And then certainly the marketing manager should absolutely have control over the company LinkedIn page. Yeah, I mean, at minimum. And then I think, and maybe they're not willing to give up their entire control, but within their sort of bio within LinkedIn, at least the section that's related to the company that they're working for now, you know, your company, then I think you should have some say in how.
That's what I've done. I've rewritten their profiles for our company.
Yeah.
Send it with their headshots and say, please update. Now you can change the background.
And I think a lot of people might appreciate that, especially if they're not super comfortable writing. You know, they might like to have a professional update. You know, you can approach it like that, right? We're marketers, right? You got to market your marketing. So spin it in a way like, hey, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to make it sound amazing, and it'll help out our firm. Yes?
So you know, I think it's in LinkedIn, you can get these email notifications saying that people are looking at your profile.
Yeah.
Is there a way you can apply that to your website to kind of figure out who your audience is and who's coming to your site?
Well, there probably is. I don't know specifically how to do it. LinkedIn, as I remember, has a pretty open like API in terms of being able to pull data from that. There are ways, so let's say, I think there's a better way to do it. And I think the way to do it better is actually to measure it because you have way more control over your own site than you do over a place like LinkedIn, which is outside your realm, right? So so this would be a perfect example, and this is a really key point, right? So if you've got a page dedicated to a particular person, you absolutely want that person to have their own unique URL. So it's populist/people/Mike Trice, right? So that would be the URL. Because you're gonna often wanna refer back to that in your email marketing, in other pages of the website. To be able to get people to go to his particular page, he needs to have his own unique URL. And by having his own unique URL, now you have the ability to track that through something like